is how we're going to save $450. This air tank here come off of this truck 6, and it's right underneath the step on the driver's side, and we were getting things back together, and I'm like, where is that air coming from? And there was a hole right in on the bottom of the tank, right where the frame piece is. So it worked its way through it, rust that is, and Jason's just putting a couple of bands on there. He put a band around this one side already, and then the side that had the hole on it was on that side. And the theory behind it is we're going to keep this tank from rusting through on the other side of it. So he's got just a regular piece of 11 gauge, or maybe that's 12 gauge steel that he's wrapping around it, and then he's got all the ports plugged off on it, and once he gets to the point where he's done welding, he's going to put air to it, spray it with soapy water, and see if he's got any leaks. So that's the project we have going on this, and then that's about it, isn't it?
Except for the exhaust.
Okay, that's right. We've got a heat shield strap that we need to get put on there. And he's got a bracket mount to put on over there, but this has got a heat shield problem here. So we'll be able to wrap this up here shortly. The guys are working on alley scrapers next door here yet. Got quite a little bit of work left to do on these. They're attaching rubber to the sled arms here. Ben is struggling. He hasn't learned the trick to it yet. So this is just 1-inch conveyor belting. Now this is similar to the stuff that we have on the floor in the cow barns. However, this does not have the cable reinforcements in it. This has just got string or rope or whatever to kind of hold that together. This wears a lot better than the metal. You can get reversible metal edges to put on here, and we've tried the poly too, and this rubber seems to work a lot better, doesn't it, Nate?
Sure.
4 times as long, right?
At least.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Does this guy need some tricks to learn? Yeah. Get this wire off in there so we don't poke any feet. Okay. I'll show you a trick or two in a minute. Just watch Nate. He's got it all figured out. All right. And the other project we have. This is my uncle's truck. This box we built back in 06, so it's 15 years old, and it's got some spots that are rusted through that we're going to go ahead and fix. We've got a couple of upright posts to fix, and we also have some cross members that are rusted through, so we're going to cut them out, put a new piece of material on the back side of this rub rail, which is 3x4 rectangle tube. We're going to have to pop the marker lights out because I ran a wire down in through this rub rail to hit all these lights. So we're going to have to trim that wire so we don't melt it. Cut the cross members out. We're going to put a piece of angle iron up against this back side and then have it come over across the bottom. So it's going to be in there like this. Then we're going to butt weld the cross member on it, and we're going to go right over across the top of the sill right in front of the cross member that's there. You can see one cross member is full of water, and that's just dripping out right now. So rather than build a new box, we're just going to kind of fix this one up so we can get a few more years out of it. And another thing he wants to put on there is he wants us to continue around the top of the cab shield. This box is 6 foot tall, and then he had 1 foot extensions put on it, and when he loads in big bales of hay or straw, he wants to carry 3 bales high at a time, and that 3rd bale gets up over the top of the box, and he's worrying that if he stops quick he could have one roll off the front of the truck. So if we continue that popper there. That'll keep the bales from rolling over the front of the truck. We've also got to fix the grain spout that's on it. That's seen better days, so we're going to cut this garbage all off and put on a new grain spout, maybe even a new door, probably a new door as well. So we're going to get after things here. Well, here we are, folks. We are actually into the following day. We just got that 9560 moved back home here, and we're working on this truck here. We're getting some cross members cut. We're getting the welds cut from where they weld onto this rub rail here. We're getting those ground out. We had that interruption here yesterday from that tractor going down. Now Jason, he ended up working on this tank here, and he kind of had to give up on it. He had it wrapped and he had everything kind of taken care of, and all these leaks started coming in and around the tank, just pinhole leaks everywhere, and we had to let him give up on it. It took too much to get this all kind of taken care of. So I said, you know what, it's time better spent just to buy a new one. You never really have the luck working on these air tanks. Once they rust through, they are rusted through in multiple spots, and every time he got one spot fixed, another hole came in, and he had holes popping in through here, just little tiny pinholes. And I said, you know what, we know better than this. Just you throw the damn thing away and you buy a new one, and that's what you do. But there was just one hole on this tank, and it was on the front side, which was right in here somewhere where it's set on the bracket. And I said, well, let's try it, and that didn't work. So Jered has got his truck coming in here. He ended up breaking the U-joint on the front drive shaft, and he ended up ordering some stuff for this 4020. He's got a new floorboard. Here's the old one here, and here is the back side. It's all rotted out. I put diamond plate on here probably 20 years ago, and there's what that looks like. And I said, you know what, this is the final time that we will be restoring this tractor. This tractor's been painted a couple, 2-3 times. I painted it back in 2000, and it's probably the last time we're going to actually go through this thing, and that is going to be it. It does have a new drawbar in it. We were using this on the sand spreader, or the sand unit, to put the bedding in the stalls, and they broke a drawbar on it here. Or was it on the cattle trailer? It was on the cattle trailer. It was actually on the cattle trailer. Yeah, they broke the drawbar on the cattle trailer. Now we run the drawbar upside down so that it puts the back of the cattle trailer lower, so the heifers and whatever don't have to jump so high. So Jered's got a new floorboard here. Now, is this new, or is it remanufactured, or a used one, or what?
No, it's new.
New. Okay, so that is a new floorboard. There is aftermarket companies building a lot of parts for these 4020s because they made so many of them. I think they made like 230,000 4020s, or maybe it was 260,000 of these. This one is a 1970 4020. Halfway through 69, they ended up putting the side consoles on these 4020s. So the earlier ones, they ran the hydraulic levers up there right on the left side of the dash, where you see that one lever. That is the PTO lever. The early 4020s had the hydraulic levers up on the dash, and then the PTO lever was on one side of the dash or the other. It was a larger lever. They say these 4020s with the side consoles, they call them new style because they were the latest style. 1970, you know, you're talking 50 some years ago. My grandfather bought this brand new in the fall of 1970, and we have a 4320 as well, which I bought that used in 99 or 2000. And my grandfather and father also had a 4320 back in the day, but they had traded it in for a 4320. Now I've got some aftermarket fenders over here that we put on this tractor 20 some years ago. We're thinking about, these are aftermarkets. The 4320 has standard fenders on it, just like this. And if you look, there's a slight bend in the fender on these aftermarket fenders that's not, it's not too awful true as far as what John Deere put on these tractors back in 60s into the 70s. Now I've got the authentic ones that are on the 4320 that are the small tail fender that we're thinking about putting on this 4020, and I've got a set of large flat top fenders that we're going to put on the 4020 if we decide to do that. This tractor right now has 18.438s. However, out of the factory it had 18.434s on it. It's got the 34-inch center. We put stepped up rims on it so that we could get the 38s on there. And the reason why we did that is because this drawbar was so damn low to the ground. This drawbar right now, I think, has got a 4-inch swing on it, and if it was actually in there the standard way for operating PTO equipment, it would be down to here, and then you take a couple inches out of these tires, and you're talking putting it low to the ground. At one time, believe it or not, this tractor was the big tractor on this farm. It was the biggest tractor on the farm until 1972, when my grandfather ended up buying a 4320. He actually bought that the year my father got married, and they chopped corn with it and whatever, and then they ran that until 77 and traded it for a 4430 like we talked before. This tractor, like I said, has been painted several times. I think this is going to be the 4th time it's been painted, 3rd or 4th. I painted it 20 some years ago. It's got a pretty square front hood to it. These tractors, if they didn't have the full stack of weights on the front, often had hoods that were square-nosed, not shark-nosed. They were square-nosed. They were bent right back to the front nose of the tractor. But this one has remained pretty good. We've got some dents in it right here, and if I can remember right, these dents here came from when this tractor had a 158 loader on it, and the top mast loader pin would, the pins would get broke out of it, and you'd have to whack the pin back with a hammer. And believe it or not, these are hammer marks from pounding in the pin that goes in the loader. If that falls there, I could be very wrong. This mast could end up falling back here, and that's probably more so true than anything else. And I don't, who knows what that could be, but that's just an assumption. And then as far as this bend in the hood right here, that came from the muffler getting caught on an overhead door backing into an old manure room on what we call barn 1. And that barn was not only like 8 feet tall, and I can remember when I was a kid backing this tractor in with a manure spreader on it, and it was just barely tall enough for the muffler, the top of the muffler, without that muffler extension on there. So what did you get for this? You got the floorboard. He's got a set of old man steps over here. for it. There is a bracket next to our channel refrigerator. There is one of the brackets for that old man step. Jered ended up getting one of these and he put it on the 4320 and he liked, or the 4620, and he liked that, and he ended up ordering one for the 4020 so that his grandfather could get on it, because he's more or less restoring it for his grandfather here. So what else did you get? You got a steering column,
Steering gearbox, whatever. Steering.
got a new steering gear for it. Now these are power steering front ends, and what there essentially is the actual steering valve is right here, and that steering valve here is leaking. Was there a core on this one?
No,
you don't have to send that back?
That's a different style.
What's different about it?
It's like an upgraded.
Upgraded?
Yeah, you just look at it. It's like a newer style.
Newer style.
I don't know. It's not anything that John Deere ever put on them.
So you got an orbit motor here, and
Yeah.
that is the actual valve.
Yeah.
And then what that does is it just transfers the power down here to the actual power unit itself. It's almost like a...
It's like what you would find on a newer tractor.
Yeah, I don't know
Really,
if you call this slave... No, not quite like that, but this orbit motor is powered, and then you're just changing the hydraulic power from the orbit motor down into the actual steering gear here. The year, or the day my grandfather died, back in 1990, my brother was spreading manure, and it was yeah, back in 1990, this front end ended up getting broke off right here. He broke the knee off, which these were very common to have that happen. Any 4020 that you see out there, you're gonna see this front beam welded here if the whole beam itself hasn't been replaced. At one time, this did have the 158 loader on there, and these front ends here are just not heavy enough for an actual loader. So we're gonna slowly get this thing put together. We need to rip this block heater off in there, which it's not really called a block heater. All that had is a heater element down inside it, kind of like what you would see inside a water heater. And the authentic one was somewhat designed like this one, but it was a cast housing that kind of bolted off of the air cleaner housing here, and I wish I kept that, but we had so many problems with that back in the day that we could not keep that going, and I just ended up putting these aftermarket ones on. And believe it or not, this is only the second aftermarket unit that we've had on this tractor. I can remember replacing quite a few of these John Deere ones, and then we ended up switching, and yeah, it is what it is. Do you have pedals ordered?
No.
Not yet.
We need one of them. We need that.
So we ended up ordering new pedals for this. If you can tell by the amount of wear that is on this pedal. Now, we had done some videoing of this tractor in a couple weeks ago, and you guys were asking how many hours are on this. Now, these hours aren't authentic. I was guessing somewhere around 25,000 hours, but if you can judge by what these pedals look like, it's got a lot more than 25,000 hours on it. So he's ordered some new pedals. The clutch pedal, look at the clutch pedal. That is almost wore to the point where it's right back into the actual frame piece. And so are the brake pedals. Now, the one panel that he is having trouble finding is this one that goes around and kind of holds the rock shaft levers. This is down in underneath the seat. He ended up, what'd you do with the seat? You got a rebuild kit for it?
Yeah, I don't have it yet.
He's got a rebuild kit for the seat itself, which is the hydraulic, or not the hydraulic, the spring, and I think there's a shock in there. So he's got that ordered. He's ordered the new sheet metal, the rock shaft sheet metal. Well, there's the phone. The rock shaft sheet metal, which is a panel that comes up around this left-hand side and then around the right-hand side. But we're having trouble finding this here, and he wants to replace this. This is bent, it's rusted, it's wore, and it is what it is. So that's gonna about wrap up the update here on the 4020. We were kicking around the idea of replacing the tires on it. The fronts are dry rotted. These are 1016s on the front. Some of the 4020s had factory 10 or 11 15s, which were a more stockier tire, and then that brought the front end down, but they are hard to find. So we should put a set of tires on here. These rims aren't the original rims, and neither is the rear rim here. I had talked about that. We changed it from the 34s that were on here, changed it to a 38. What would be nice to put on this is a 20.8 34, but those tires are real expensive. My uncle had a tractor that he bought, a 4020 with 20.8 34s on it back when I was a kid, and that looked real good. That looked real nice, but we're not sure what we're gonna do with that. This is a Agri-Track. I don't know what kind of tire that is. Saccharin, sauerkraut, something like that. However, it has a Firestone Field and Road on this side, and when this tractor was new, that's what would have been standard for a tire, is these Firestone Field and Roads. Back in the 70s, they did not have radial tires back then. However, the boys were just telling me a little while ago that they do not make the Firestone Field and Roads anymore. So I guess that's gonna about do it for the update on what we've got going on in the shop here. It has been tough here lately to do any kind of videoing. I get a project started, I get on it, then I get sidetracked, have to go do something else, and I kind of forget where I left off, and nothing kind of matches with what we're doing. Anybody that I'm working with, they usually finish the job I was on until it gets to the point where it's a little more complicated, and the next thing you know, I miss steps 7, 8, and 9, and we have to fast forward 12, 13, and 14. So that's where we're at here. So we're gonna end this video right here, and we'll come back at you with what we're doing to my uncle's truck here, with repairing the cross members on it. And I guess that's gonna about do it. Drop me a comment down below if I rambled on a little bit too much. Let me know exactly your thoughts, and we'll go from there. So thanks for watching, folks. What's that?
If anyone has one of these things, I need it.
Let us know
what do you call that?
What that thing is called. We need to know. There's got to be some 20 series enthusiasts out there that know enough about these 4020s to let us know what that's all about. And these Scotch locks should be outlawed. This is something that I must have put on here 20 some years ago, and they are freaking junk. Scotch locks should be outlawed, folks. So, well, that's gonna do her. Thanks for watching. Got a jackknife? Rip it off.